Do you know, I'm fed up of using deep heat for injuries. Honestly, it's so painful. I've got a bad knee today. I wonder if fragrances can help. Yes, good morning. Unfortunately, I have a bit of a knee injury. Yes, I've just changed running shoes and it's causing a little bit of pain. So every time I straighten my leg, it's very sore, which made me think, am I going to be able to run today? Probably not, but I'm going to give it a little bit of a try. And I thought, can I use fragrances in some ways to help me? I've used fragrances to kind of help my sports performance before. Can it reduce your injury risk or reduce your perception of an injury, let's say? Can it reduce that feeling of pain, which I'm certainly having at the moment? I had a little look. ChatGPT recommended a list of fragrance notes that are meant to help, reduce that perception of pain essentially. And the top three they came up with was lavender, number one. Again, lavender always used for sort of sleep therapy, been proven to work, helps people relax, calming notes. So that doesn't surprise me particularly. The next one down was peppermint or just mint in general. Again, quite surprised with that. It's a bit more uplifting, refreshing, a little bit more piercing, I would say, than the lavender. Not quite as calming in that sense, more bracing. And then the last one that came up, or the third one that came up, most of the top three, was rosemary. Again, rosemary, obviously used a lot in cooking at times. Never really thought about it in fragrances. Obviously, I know it's in fragrances, but as for detecting it, never been too sure. So I've basically picked out 3 clone fragrances I had from the Essence Vault today, and we're going to put them to the test. So I've got here, let's start with this one, the Essence Vault 301. This is a clone of Abercrombie and Fitch. This is the one that has the rosemary in. So yeah, very interesting. I didn't know it had that one in. I thought it had a bit of lavender, but no, rosemary and a combination of the other notes give off that nice sort of clean masculine type vibe. One here we have peppermint in is the Essence Vault 475, which is a clone of Versace Eros. It's that mint vanilla combination. Vanilla was also listed as a note a little bit lower down to help sort of injury perception. And then the third one, which I'm going to take out first today, is Dior Sauvage clone, which is the Essence Vault 197. That has lavender in the middle of the fragrance, in the heart of the fragrance, very prominent. Again, alongside that ambroxan works and gives you this nice clean musky feeling alongside that bit of spice. So essentially what I'm going to do today, I'm going to try and do my sort of usual workout, walk to the gym, do a gym workout. So essentially I do 3 different types of exercise. So I'm going to go for the run first. I'm going to take the top one, the top sort of note that's meant to help reduce your pain perception first, which is this one here, the Essence Vault 197, which has the lavender in. Then what we'll do, hopefully I'll be able to get a bit of a run out today. We'll then take the peppermint one, so Versace Eros, on my walk, just again to see how I cope with that. Is it help reduce my pain perception? We'll sniff it in different stages. And then after, when we're at the gym, we'll do this one, the Essence Vault 301, and see again if that can help me get through this workout today. I'm really hoping I'm going to be able to do so because the weather is lovely. So yeah, enough waffling on. I hope that made sense. Essentially, I'm doing a bit of a science study here. So yeah, I'm going to try and do a bit of stretching. Hopefully that'll help. And yeah, I'll see you out there. Extra pain relief. We are off, and I can't say my knees feel that comfortable at the minute, but we are moving at least. I don't think I'm going any slower, but something I've always been told off for when I used to play cricket, and I was obviously running between the stumps as a batsman. Always used to get told you never get your knees up, and I think that's probably been the problem here, as I've overdone the running because I've been on holiday, and my knees, well, I don't sort of straighten them. With these new pair of shoes, it hurts when my legs are straight, and I think I've just sort of tweaked it while going sort of downhill. So gotta be careful, Harry, gotta be sensible. But is the Dior Sauvage clone, the Essence Vault 197, helping at all? Well, to be honest, I can smell it. That's the first thing. And it is one of them, to be honest, where I think, because it's so easy to wear, so easy to pull off, it's a blue fragrance, in its own way, it's quite a calming scent. And look, is it reducing that pain section I've got? Probably not. But it is uplifting, it feels perfect for what I'm doing. And I suppose in that sense it's distracting my mind a little bit because it's so strong, that's what I'm noticing. And it doesn't feel uncomfortable, it doesn't feel something that's like, it's there, it's so recognisable to me, it's such a familiar smell. Sometimes that familiarity can help you feel a little bit more relaxed, and in that sense your pain perception of course will go down. So far, yes, very happy. This is a really good clone, by the way. If anyone hasn't looked on the Essence Vault before, they're probably their biggest seller, I believe, on there is Lost Cherry, but this one certainly is really good. So if you're someone who does like those blue fragrances, this is definitely one to look out for, and hopefully, even if I can get sort of 5 miles or something out of today, I'll certainly be happy. But the most thing is to come back unscathed and no worse for it. Fingers crossed I won't do anything stupid. We've made it back, and I've managed to do 22,904 steps. I've pretty much got my full run out of it and barely felt a thing. Now, was that because I was wearing this Dior Sauvage lavender based fragrance? I don't think so, but I did notice it during my workout. And did it sort of help? Did it keep me in a good mood? Yes, it did. Look, not related to obviously the injury or anything like that at all, but I felt more positive because it just feels right for the workout. Sometimes I wear some bizarre fragrances while I'm reviewing them on these. This one just felt fine. It's a very uplifting scent, whether you really like it or not. It's clean, it's a little bit spicy, and it just has that masculine edge that I just really like. It's uplifting. It reminds me of the summer. Yes, it's an all-year versatile scent, but it is that gym sporty fragrance which aligns with my personality, and that's probably why it made me feel good. I don't think it's anything to do with like the lavender per se, but it did work. So we're going to move on to the next one now. That we're going to go on to peppermint, see if it can keep me in the good mood. And this one, actually, I'm going to put both on. The reason was I was going to take this one, which is the Abercrombie & Fitch Fierce one, the rosary one, separately to the gym, but it does leak a little bit, as you would have seen in my other review. So I'm going to spray on this side the Versace Eros Cologne. This is a lovely vanilla mint smell, and it's really grown on me. When I first got this one, I wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure about it. I found it a little bit boring, a bit cheap, a bit synthetic. I'm going to sneeze now. One problem with these ones, am I going to sneeze? The one problem with these ones though is they really, really do sit in that. Here we go. Or have I saved it? Honestly, I'm going to do a video. There it is. I'm going to do a video soon where I test my nose and essentially see how much I can offend my nose. But I've done it there anyway. So let's spray this one. This is the rosemary fragrance, Abercrombie & Fitch Fierce. Get myself sneezing again. Did a video on overspraying the other day. That's why you don't overspray. But they are both very calming, very pleasant scents. I thought Fierce had a bit of lavender in, but it doesn't apparently, which is funny. But I think it's the combination of the little rosemary and the other accord in it, maybe the sandalwood as well. It just gives off this nice, clean, musky vibe that's very pleasant in this fragrance. Might remind you of lavender, essentially. But yeah, all sprayed. Smell a lot better than I did the other day doing that workout, and I actually only sprayed out 3 or 4 times for the video. So I'm going to put my hoodie on, head to the gym, and yeah, we'll talk about those fragrances a little bit more as we head down. We are on our way to the gym. I'm not going to lie, my knee hurts a lot more walking. It's bizarre. It's like the minute I straighten my leg, that's when it hurts. Of course, walking, you don't bend your knees so much. You don't land with the sort of a bent leg so much. So it's much more uncomfortable. But are the fragrances helping to reduce that? Well, I don't know. Let's sort of talk about it in 3 things. Three things about how I think it is helping a little bit. First of all, it obviously provides a bit of a distraction. You know, because sometimes you get that sort of fleeting smell of it and you go, oh, that's nice. So even if it's just very temporary, 1, 2, 3 seconds, you do get that slight break of, oh, I can forget about my knee for a second. What's that smell? Obviously, I know what I've applied, so it doesn't last too long. The other thing I'd say with these is because they're generic in terms of the fact, obviously, I've got clone fragrances here. These are actual clones. You know, it's very easy to assume the originals, you know, the original Versace, just the original Abercrombie & Fitch Fierce, you know, their scents that have been copied a lot, but I like that. It gives me that familiarity and comfort, which I think is helping me with my knee pain. And also, I mean, if you just take out the actual notes we're looking at in a bit more focus here, rosemary, peppermint and earlier lavender, you associate with, you know, those sort of smells with things that aren't necessarily linked to fragrances. Obviously lavender, you might think of a spring garden, you might get that smell every day. Peppermint you can get in tea, you know, peppermint oil, all these sorts of things, you know, products on shelves. And the same with rosemary, you know, you can have that in food and cooking to add a bit of flavour to like your roast potatoes or something. So, you know, I think there's 3 different ways these are working. And I'd say it's definitely better than I thought. I didn't really think it was going to be that effective today, but it is allowing me that comfort. And I said this before, when I was doing the ultra marathon, having that smell, something to distract your mind for a second, you know, a nice smell, just gave you that bit of comfort when you felt tired more than anything. And again, Versace Eros and Abercrombie & Fitch Fierce, they've been around a long time now. They're super popular, they're popular for a reason, and I think that is what's helping. That familiarity mainly today is what works, rather than, you know, it's not, I don't think the specific notes, I don't think it's lavender specifically, I don't think it's peppermint or rosemary specifically, it's just the fact they're scents I recognise, and that gives me a bit of comfort. It's like if you're in a hospital and you know, you're sitting there, someone might bring your favourite book or your favourite chocolate bar or something, just to sort of give you that feeling of calm. And I think it's just giving me a little bit more of that clarity that actually I can distract my mind for a couple of minutes, my knee isn't too bad, and I'm still going to the gym. That is the main thing, so maybe it's working more than I thought. So workout done, just had my shower. How am I feeling ultimately? Well, my knees certainly feel better than it did walking to the gym and doing some of the walking on the treadmill, but is it the fragrance that's really made the difference? Probably not, but it has certainly given me that comfort today. It was really nice to wear those fragrances to the gym. They didn't feel unpleasant because, again, they're so, such a recognisable smell, so mass appealing. They felt absolutely fine. So in that sense, it made me just concentrate on doing my workout, and just had a really good session. I managed to do about 36,000 steps, which I did not plan to do today with my knee hurting. But reality is, I think ultimately, sometimes movement helps. Sometimes when you have these injuries, keeping them stiff actually makes them worse. And I think ultimately I've been a little bit lucky today with my run. It didn't hurt anywhere near as much as I thought it was going to. And I just think ultimately the fragrance, it almost worked like a supplement, like a pill. It doesn't make a huge difference. It's just there to support in the background, give you that little bit of comfort and distraction. And I think that's what they are for ultimately. When you buy these things, whether it's an old scent that you used to have when you wore them at school, they can give you positive scent memories, they can give you, throwbacks to holidays, anything like that. I think that's kind of how it's worked today. It's kind of just focused my mind on something else for a period of time, and I think that's what they're really good for. They're meant to be a feel-good thing, and I think anything you can find to make you feel good, even when you've got an injury or a bad day or something, is not a bad thing, and that's why I like them as much as just the smells themselves. So hope you enjoyed this one today. I'm hoping to do a little bit of a walk this afternoon and nick another one of my brother's last fragrances, so hopefully you'll see that one soon. If you still got it, of course. I'll have a little look when I get back. Catch you later.